Hi guys, it's Mandy from Mandyleeplays, and in today's video, I'm going over the last games I played in 2025. I beat a lot of games these past few months. This is going to cover the months of October through November, and wow did I get busy because I beat a total of 7 games. And this brings the total amount of games I beat this year to 22 games. Now, if you want to watch my previous games I beaten, there is a playlist for that. Also, if you end up liking this video, then hit that like button, would appreciate it. And if you like my channel and love to see more, consider subscribing. So without further ado, let's get into the video. I do know that these games are, JRPG focused, but the first game I beat is actually not a JRPG, but I still beat it and I still loved it. And that is for Story of Seasons, The Grand Bazaar. Now, I beat this game on October 1st, well, the main campaign. You can still play the game after the main campaign is over. And I still play it to this day, actually. I love this game so much. It's my comfort game. And this game was also featured in one of my favorite games of 2025. Yeah, I really love it. I won't talk too much into it because honestly, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I still want to let you guys know why I loved it so much. So essentially, this game has been my cozy game to play whenever I am stressed out with life, which is basically every day nowadays. I pull out this baby for some wholesome fun because there's nothing like going to a farm, kicking back, raising some animals, and planting crops, and making profit in video game form. If you do that in real life form, that is really hard. Now, the problem I get with a lot of these farming sims is that they feel kind of samey to each other, but with the Grand Bazaar, they did add a little twist to it, which made it really fun and addicting, and that is the Grand Bazaar part. It makes for such a good gameplay loop. It's basically like a flea market where you take all of your stuff from the week and you sell them to make profit. And also the Grand Bazaar portion has its own gameplay. So you put your stuff on the table and you ring the bell to get customers. And while it does start off very slow at first, when you get higher in rank, you have more items, more tables, and more decorations to help you. But besides the Grand Bazaar portion, there's the typical farming sim stuff, like you have to plow the garden, plant your crops, all that good stuff. And also you can make different items in the windmills, and there's also seasons in Story of Seasons. So for me, the most exciting part is the week before Grand Bazaar because I'm just preparing all the stuff and I'm just excited to see how much profit I can make. And then with the boatload of cash that you did get, you could turn around and buy stuff for yourself and your farm. This game is fantastic. I'm not usually a farming sim girly, but with Story of Seasons, I am. Alrighty, next game is probably a series you're kind of tired of hearing on this channel, but I don't care. Atelier Reslariana, The Red Alchemist, and The White Guardian. And yes, I did play this on the Switch, which I do have some thoughts on. And I beat this game on October 5th. Man, I was just really killing it in October. But anyways, now the mistake I did was getting a Switch 1 copy instead of a PlayStation 5 copy because the Switch 1, while being convenient, it does suffer from a lot of frame drops and the graphics are not the best. I don't know why Koei Tecmo didn't go for a Switch 2 option. It would have made the game so much better. So while I do highly recommend Atelier Reslariana, I would not recommend the Switch copy unless you only have a Switch. I would definitely get it on the PlayStation 5 or PC if you have those as an option. If you get past all the technical issues of the Switch 1, the game itself is fantastic. One of my favorite Atelier games. And I also said this in my best games of 2025. It was actually a bit better than Atelier Yumiya. And I'm not saying this as a bad thing. I loved Atelier Yumiya a lot, but Atelier Reslariana scratched that old Atelier itch for me. And you could also play as 2 characters, although you could switch them here and there. I'm not sure how the story changes, but there's that option. And it also features a male protagonist, something we haven't seen since Eska and Logi, which is really cool. And speaking of the protagonist, we have our alchemist Rias, and then the male protagonist Slade. He doesn't do alchemy, but he does have story importance because he has the key to open portals between other universes. So the whole story of this game revolves around their hometown of Helifin. So when Rias and Slade were younger, there was this phenomenon called the Red Mist, and essentially everybody disappeared except Rias and Slade. This includes Rias's grandfather and Slade's father. So there's personal stakes in the story. But essentially they're going to different ruins to figure out how to get the town people back and restore the city of Helfint. A very classic Atelier story if I ever saw one, and that's not a bad thing. And not only are you discovering these mysteries, you also have to help rebuild Hellfent. And this is done through Rias's little shop called the Mistletoe Miscellaneous, which is honestly a really cute name. And this basically allows her to sell all the items that she synthesized through alchemy, and then she gives all the funds to help rebuild Hellfent. And you do this by upgrading different districts. And a nice little treat is that you get to see the town grow as you put more funds into it. And now for the core mechanics of any Atelier game, the synthesizing. I really loved it in this game. It's not that hard to understand, but there still is depth to it. To me, it was very familiar and it played a lot like the older Atelier games, which I really did enjoy, but with a splash of more modern Atelier games. And the gameplay battles were really fun. It took a lot of aspects from Atelier Sophie 2, and I just love it. And your party is made up of not just any characters, they're actually main characters in other Atelier games. So we have Sophie from Sophie 1 and Sophie 2, Totori from Atelier Totori, Ray's from Mana Kamiya 2, which is a very old Atelier game. Even I haven't played it. And there's also Wimpel, which she's not a main character, but she's such a fan favorite. So as a whole package, this was just a fantastic game. A combo of new Atelier and old Atelier while adding its own thing. Although, I really regret buying this for the Switch. So we went through two fantastic games that were on my favorite games of 2025. Now it's time to reverse that. This game was actually on my worst games of 2025. And that is for Pokemon Legends ZA. I really wanted to love this game, I really did, but it just let me down in so many ways. But I also want to stress that I'm glad that Game Freak is being more experimental with their gameplay and the whole story structure. And while I do appreciate it for that, and the character animations are fantastic, the overall gameplay loop is what really grinded my gears. But I want to elaborate on that. Let's first begin with the world, or city. If you're gonna limit the game to one city, make that city feel alive. The city that they're in is supposed to look like Paris, and it don't look nothing like Paris. Like, they did Paris dirty. And while there are spots that look very pretty, there are areas that look really bad. And while a lot of people might be thinking, why don't you just do the side quest? Well, it's because they're boring. Now, I know that not all side quests needs to be bombastic and eventful, but a majority of them are just so boring. And these side quests are pretty much split into gathering an item for a person, battling a trainer or a Pokemon, or some weird puzzle that's very easy. I don't know, I felt like these side quests could have been tackled in a different way. But the worst offender, in my opinion, for this game is the ZA Royale. Man, did I have my expectations up too high for this thing, and then I was swiftly let down. But anyways, to me the ZA Royale was just boring. After the second round, I was just like, is this gonna be a thing for all the ranks? You go into a zone, you battle different trainers, gather the points, rinse and repeat. So yeah, that was kind of the nail in the coffin for me. And it's funny because even in the middle, Game Freak had it where you could skip a lot of the middle ranks, which was a godsend in my opinion, because who in the heck would want to do 26 ranks of this game? I don't. Anyways though, I did love the megas. Those were really cool. But moving on to greener pastures, the next game I have is Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. This game was just fantastic. Overall, it was really fun. So in this game, it basically tells what Zelda was doing during the events of Tears of a Kingdom when she was teleported to the past. This game focuses on that era, and it was nice to get more context for these characters and Zelda herself. And while there weren't that much big revelations, I didn't expect there to be big revelations because most of the story is pretty much told. And to me, it's a perfect way to send off the whole Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom era of games and wrap up the whole story. Now for the gameplay, the combat is really fun. It runs at 60 FPS, which is amazing because the previous one was well known as Age of Frame Rate because the frame rate was all over the place. But with this game, it's a nice solid 60 FPS. And overall, I had so much fun sinking a ton of hours in this game by just hacking and slashing random enemies. And in my opinion, it's one of those games where you can just shut off your brain and play it non non-stop for the day. Now for the game that actually won my favorite game of 2025, and that is Digimon Story Time Strangers. I just noticed that I played a lot of the games I loved in these few months. I don't know why that happened. I won't go deep into it because it wasn't my favorite games of 2025, but essentially I really didn't know anything about Digimon. I never watched the anime or played the games or even had those little gadget thingies, but on a weird whim I decided to pick it up because it looked cool and I just ended up loving it. And it really scratched that itch for a Pokemon style kind of experience without it being Pokemon, and I am now a Digimon fan. I also got Cyber Sleuth. I haven't played it yet, but I'm hoping I'll love that one too. Now the best thing I loved about this game was the story. It took so many twists and turns. It was just wild, and your character gets caught up in a cataclysmic event called the Shinjuku Inferno, which sends you 8 years in the past, looping you into a situation where you have to prevent the inferno from happening. And while there is some traditional Deus Ex Machina and cringy moments, I still felt like the story was delivered really well. And while yes, the story was my favorite part, the gameplay was still really fun. As a person who's never really played anything Digimon, I felt myself getting used to the gameplay really fast, so it's not that hard to jump into. And I loved seeing the different Digimon and their Digi-evolutions. Ah man, but honestly speaking, I felt like I've talked about this game so much on my channel, so trust me fam, the game is good. I highly recommend it. One of my favorite games, but boy am I tired of repeating myself. So the next game we have is Trails in the Sky Chapter 1. Trails in the Sky honestly was a slow burn, but it does have good reason for it. The game really takes its time to really establish not only the world, but the situation and the characters. So our dual protagonists are Estelle and Joshua Bright, who are junior bracers and are trying to climb up the ranks to become senior bracers. However, their personal quest gets impeded when their father goes out for milk and disappears. Oh yeah, Estelle and Joshua are siblings in a way, but they're not related by blood. They just took Joshua in when Estelle was young. So Estelle and Joshua go on a journey to explore the different cities in Liberl and get more info on their father. So there's a lot of things that they have to establish, and that's why the game is a bit of a slow burn. Honestly, it wasn't that big of a deal for me. Trails in the Sky first chapter is actually my first Trails game, and I'm happy to announce I am a new Trails fan. I still have a long ways to go to the more recent games, but from what I played from first chapter, I have a feeling I'm gonna be in love with this series. Also, Trails in the Sky first chapter surprisingly has a second chapter, and I'm really excited for that one because they leave the first one on such a big cliffhanger that I'm just frustrated I didn't play them back to back. But the second game does come out this year. So now on to the last one, and it's honestly a game that I just really hated, and that game is for Dragon Quest 1. This game is just horrendous. At the beginning it was fine and it was fun, but once you go deeper into the game, its flaws just become apparent. This whole one party system was a mistake. I'm glad that's the only time in JRPG history that they've done that, because it doesn't make for a very fun gameplay loop. It makes for a really stressful one. It's hard when you're just one person and you're in charge of the healing, the buffs or debuffs, and attacking. And this game throws so many enemies at you at the same time. I wanted to chuck my controller out the freaking window. I don't know what they were thinking. And keep in mind, I played the remake version and that is the best version. If I played the original, now I can appreciate that this is JRPG history. It's what started the Dragon Quest series and what got everybody to fall in love with it. But it's really bad. This is what people fell in love with? I'm really confused. Having one character do everything was just frustrating, or having hordes of enemies just come at you when you're just one person is really stressful. Although new to this game, you do get bigger, beefier AoE attacks that help, but your health has to be in 50%, which is just dangerous, and you have to pray that that attack kills the enemy, because if not and they attack you, you'll probably die. So I'm glad I actually played the game because it's a classic, and while I didn't like it, it doesn't turn me off from the Dragon Quest series. If anything, I'm more excited to play Dragon Quest 2 because that one has a party system. So even though Dragon Quest 1 was a dud and it's one of my least favorite classic JRPGs, I'm still excited for future Dragon Quest games. So that is the end of this video. Please let me know what games you've beaten in the last 3 months. Hit that like button if you liked the video, and consider subscribing if you're not yet subscribed. So without further ado, I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of the day, and as always, play a good game. Peace.